I'm Kristin in case we haven't met before, and I'm a hair extension specialist. So today I'm going to be showing you how to curl your hair using the new Shark Flexstyle. And originally I made a blow dry tutorial along with this curling tutorial, and it ended up being too long for one video. So we're coming at you today with part 2, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so before I even start playing with this guy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use some hairspray. Especially when your hair is nice and clean, even with a standard hot tool, it can be hard to get your hair to hold a curl, so we're gonna use hairspray. The first time I did this, I kind of just winged it and I didn't use any hairspray, and it was okay. I used enough product with hold in it to make it work, but using something with a little bit of hold is gonna be your friend. This wouldn't be what my normal choice is. This is what I have. This is Redken's 28. This is it's a great hairspray. Don't get me wrong. It's just not what I would, not my first choice, I guess. But with extensions especially, you're always going to want to make sure to use hairspray when you're trying to get your hair to hold the style. So this is a nice working hairspray. You don't want to use a finishing hairspray just because that's more for setting. It's not really for working, but we're going to use before and after and sometimes during. So we're going to just go like this. Sometimes I kind of pick it up and do the underneath, the other side. And you can kind of feel if you miss any spots, but there you go. Okay, so hairspray's in, and now I'm going to brush through all this, and then it'll be the hairspray kind of just disappears. And it's totally touchable and brushable still. So that's one thing I really like about Redken's hairspray is honestly they're classic for a reason. And the reason why I said that wouldn't be my first choice is just because I don't have number 23. This is considered number 28, which is just a little bit more hold, but 23 has always been my jam. So I just don't have any. Actually, I don't even know if they make that anymore, but 28 it is. So as you can see, all the way brushed out. Okay, so another thing you're gonna need is a clip or two. So what I'm gonna do is since we're gonna do the side of my head first, I'm going to actually just section off this part and just completely get it out of the way. We're actually gonna use a little hair tie here. Sometimes you just use what you got, and I got a hair tie here. Okay, and then for this side, we actually are gonna clip it up. I find that the smaller sections you use for this, the better. You're just gonna get more of an actual wave out of your hair if you are going with smaller sections. I'm just gonna twist this up. There we go. Okay, and this is what we're gonna start with. And as you are doing this, you definitely wanna continue to make sure that your hair is tangle free. So we're just gonna get this down a little bit. There we go. And then again, we are gonna be using high heat and high power on this side. So this is still a little awkward for me, so you'll kind of see me fumbling a little bit, but that's okay. We're gonna learn together. It takes a little getting used to. This is actually, I've never used a blow dry styler before, and this thing is pretty cool. So I'm excited to keep using it and get better at doing it. Okay, so right at the beginning here, I am not speeding it up as much as I will be later in the video, just because I want for you to be able to see most of the speed at which I'm naturally doing this without having to watch every single second in real time. So I hope that's helpful. But I also wanted to point out that sometimes when I'm grabbing sections, especially with this back bottom section of my head, it was super awkward for me almost at first. But I noticed that even though I would grab sections, sometimes it just didn't want to grab. So what I would do is just drop out the section that didn't want to hold on to the tool, and I just kept going. So I found that to be a little bit easier, but I just wanted to point that out. So I hope that helps. Okay, section 1 is done. As you can see, even though I pre-sectioned my hair, it kind of just wanted to grab smaller pieces. So I've noticed in the back bottom of this part of my head, it kind of just wants to do that. So that's how it is. And we're just gonna keep going. When it comes to your section size, I like to follow the rule of thumb of basically not using or not making a section that's bigger than the tool size that you're using. So for instance, here, I'll show you. This is about a 1-inch square. You just don't want to take a giant section. So something about this size is a good place to start. It's kind of a rule of thumb, whether you're using this guy or any other hot tool. Okay, so one thing that I want you to notice while I'm moving through these sections here is
the distance between my tool and my attachments. Basically, if my extensions were grown out even another inch, I would be holding on to the extensions near the root, kind of like how you see me doing throughout here. This just helps to make sure that you aren't getting accidentally too close to the scalp or creating too much tension in between the tool and your extensions. By the way, I'm holding each section for about 10 seconds, and I find that that's a good place to start.
Something I always tell like my guests is like, don't worry so much about it being perfect while you're doing it. One of my favorite things to do is just like kind of get the curl in, and then you can go back and like adjust as needed. So I just saw this was going a little wonky while I was doing that, so I wanted to go back and kind of redo it again. So we're gonna go with it and learn together.
Okay, so one thing that I want you to notice as I'm working through here is one, that I'm keeping my sections as clean as I possibly can. This is always going to help you have like the best results no matter what hot tool you are using. And I also want you to notice that as I'm working throughout each section, I am using my other hand near the root of my hair as I am wrapping the hair around this tool. This is helping so much with tension and also helps to make sure that I'm not wrapping my hair too tightly.
And then I really like unwrapping it like that. I'm really liking that actually. And then let's do the same thing to this.
Okay, so what I started doing at this point is actually I turned off the tool after I was finished with each section, and I feel like it helped not only with control, but it also helped to shape the hair a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, there's something about that. Okay. That's fun. Let's keep going. Another section. So we're gonna do 4 sections, not 3. It's okay. Smaller is better.
Okay, so something that I also want you to notice while I'm working here is that I'm always maintaining slack in between my extensions and the tool itself. This again helps to prevent you from having too much tension with the tool, and it is super important to keep in mind as your extensions grow out. In this specific video, my extensions are maybe a month old, so they are relatively close to my head. If they were grown out another inch or so, I would be making sure to hold each section near the base of my hair, kind of like how you see me doing throughout this video.
Sometimes you gotta brush it a little bit, but as you can see, I'm not touching any of the curls that I've already done. We're gonna leave them to cool completely before we do anything to them. I know they look a little like Cindy Lou Who right now, but that's okay. I promise it won't stay that way.
Okay, so something that you'll definitely notice, kind of like I did, is that the back of your head is hard. Don't worry too much about making it perfect because you can always go back and redo it, kind of like you see me doing here. And this goes for any hot tool. This is not tool specific.
We're gonna brush this. Oh, I promise it's this. I'm a little better at this when I'm just looking in the mirror instead of looking in a screen. I promise. It's a little weird to look at, but it's okay.
Honestly, when you aren't used to curling your hair all of the time or you haven't gotten a lot of practice with it yet, this is totally normal. You just brush it out and do it again.
It's really nice. Okay, just a couple more.
Okay, so what you can see me doing here is I am taking my shorter natural hair and combining it with the lengths of my extensions. It can be kind of tricky when we're doing that with this tool just because it is powered by airflow alone. But honestly, if your hair doesn't wrap around the tool completely the first time, just go ahead and do it again and it'll blend really nicely.
We're just gonna leave that. Okay, cool. So before I even like move to the other side, I know this looks a little funny, but it's totally okay. I'm literally gonna give it a squirt of hairspray here. Let that start getting its shape in there, and then we're gonna do the same thing over here. One thing we will do is pop this guy off, and then we're gonna put the left side on. Snaps right in, perfect. Just want to give it a nice little moment here, before, after. Right now, same thing. And we're gonna move through this real quick.
So for this tool, each attachment is labeled and you'll use either or depending on which side of the head you're working on.
By the way, one thing I'm not sure if I mentioned or not, this thing does get hot, so if you are struggling to like take your hair off of the barrel, I have nails, so like I can touch these and it, you know, I've got a little barrier there, but you can always use like a comb or a clip or something else. Just something to note.
Okay, so on this side of my head, I'm speeding up this part just to go a little bit faster, just because we're basically doing the same thing on this side. But one thing I did notice as I was doing this is that the motions became easier as I kept doing it. So just know that it just takes practice, and once you get the motions down, this is really simple. So I also did take smaller sections as I was going, and I found that grabbing the hair like towards the middle of your length helped to get the hair to wrap around the tool a little easier. And then from there, I would kind of wind or unwind the tool depending on the area of tension that I was getting. So you never want to hold your hair too tight. And like I said, you always want to have slack in between the tool and your extensions. You never want to grab your hair so tightly that it is difficult to untangle or difficult to unwind. One of the biggest things that I find with this tool is kind of letting the tool doing the work is key to making this as easy as possible. Essentially, working with airflow alone is always going to be a little trickier just because when you're used to the physical motion of turning a curling iron, it is very different than using a tool like this to style your hair. So that's something you'll definitely want to keep in mind there. And then I know that it might look like there is almost too much tension between like my natural hair and how I'm wrapping the tool, but I can assure you that there's always slack between my natural hair and the bonds of my extensions. Basically, like because the airflow is what's creating the tension, I'm just holding the tool with my hair wrapped around it more than anything. And the tension is more natural than it is forced. And that's something you definitely want to keep in mind as you're going. As I'm working throughout this section, I am isolating a part of my hair to work on. I am creating horizontal lines, basically from like my hairline back in a straight line, as straight as possible, in order to then create smaller sections that I want to curl on. I know this can seem a little complicated when you aren't used to sectioning your hair, but this is going to make your life so much easier if you are good at sectioning your hair while you are using any hot tool. As you'll also notice, what I'm doing when I am working throughout each section is basically if I don't get the ends to wrap around the tool right away, what I do is then I actually just kind of manually wrap the hair around the barrel. It can kind of be a little bit manual in that sense, but I still find that that works. And if you do find that your ends aren't as curled as you would like them to be, you can kind of just take the ends of your hair and redo that little part, and it looks really good. Kind of like how you see me doing here, where I'm just kind of holding like the first like few inches of my hair and letting the tool wrap the very bottom of my hair around it. That works really nicely. It's just about getting used to the motion and working with the airflow instead of an actual hot tool.
I missed a spot. That's okay. Okay, so just from first observations, this side looks, I did like the whole drop, turn off the tool every time I went to a new section, so on this side exclusively, and I wonder if I made a difference. But both sides look good. I know it looks a little crazy right now, but I'm not gonna touch it. I'm gonna let it cool for like a good 15 minutes or so. But first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes now. My hair is totally cooled down. and it's kind of fallen just a little bit, which is totally okay. And I'm gonna show you how I like brush this out. I'm just gonna basically use my paddle brush. You can either like, you could literally just finger brush through this if you wanted to, but I like it when it's brushed out with a big brush, so that's what we're gonna do. Wow, it looks really good. This is actually the best I've gotten it to look through just like, I don't know, the 2 or 3 times that I've done this so far. So I'm really happy about that, but I can totally see, well, honestly, that's gonna be more of a haircut thing for me, but basically, see, this side's kind of fallen a little bit, but that's totally okay. I'm very okay with that. With any kind of hot tool like this, I'm not really gonna expect it to give me like a barrel curl. And so I'm very, very okay with this. I am curious how it'll last like while I'm sleeping, and I'm actually really curious to see how it'll style like second day. Because this is really, really cute. This is really cute. See, like, it's funny because even just that 1 inch, the 1 inch barrel was totally, you know, the smaller of the two, and it still gave me like a nice big loose wave. And I took pretty small sections. But my hair is long, so that's something that's kind of just gonna happen with longer hair. You're gonna have more weight, and it's not gonna bounce and spring up like how it would with shorter hair. Yeah, basically what I'm just gonna do now is throw a little like texture spray in it and kind of just rock it for the rest of the night. Okay, so this is like my favorite, it's been my favorite texture spray for a couple years now. This is the Milbon dry texture spray, and I really like this stuff. It smells really good. And it doesn't make the hair feel like dirty, which is my favorite thing. So yeah, wow, that really fluffed that up, huh? Now, my expectations for this to last overnight are 50-50, just because of the way I sleep and just because this is already starting off loose. But honestly, even if this gives me like a good foundation to work with tomorrow, like that's kind of all I need it to be. You know, I'm a big fan of doing like basically styling your hair to where it can be restyled really easily. Like I've got that foundation in there, so no matter what I do for the rest of the week, it's gonna look really good. But yeah, this is super fun. I'm just gonna keep playing with it and practicing with it, and it's just gonna get better and better. But honestly, I'm still getting used to it. So it's gonna take me some time to kind of make the ultimate verdict on my opinion of it. But I love it as a dryer, and I really like just how it did with like this little curling action. That alone is great. So, okay, so I'm going to stop touching my hair, and I am going to go do some other shit. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you again soon, and have a good one. Okay, so we're gonna touch this up. The same thing. It's gonna go a lot faster this time though. Okay, so I think that day 2 is where it's at.
And the reason that I say that is because honestly, like when you're styling extensions, half the battle is just getting the initial shape into your hair. And when I did this for day 1, this was in the evening. I'm typically a night washer. And yes, it looked great when I did it at first. But honestly, the win I think is going to be to touch it up like the next day. And that is going to make it go so much faster for one, and two, like it just looks better.
By the way, I'm not even adding more hairspray right now. I feel like there's enough in it. So we're just gonna add a little texture spray at the end.
It just becomes easier when you can just enhance the shape that you already have. And when you already have shape in there, all you're doing is enhancing when you are restyling.
Something I always try to do for my guests is create easy ways to make their hair look good. And sometimes it just involves a little sidestepping, but this is one of those easy ways to make your hair look good. Okay, so that took like half the time, which is great. I noticed that it went faster because basically like the shape was already mostly in there. So since the hair had already been wrapped around the tool yesterday, it happened a lot easier today. So we're just gonna throw a little texture spray in it. I'm gonna brush this out and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so it's been a good like 15, and we're just gonna brush this out. Okay, so day 2's a win. I love the way this looks. Nice and big. Yeah, that was really easy. I honestly didn't really even have to touch up the whole thing. I just kind of did because this is still new to me, but I could have probably gotten away with just like not doing as much sectioning underneath here and just kind of focusing on the top here, but I like love the way this looks. So yeah, we'll see how this lasts like night 2, but I'm really happy with it. Perfect. Okay, so this would be day 3. And honestly, I'm not gonna do anything to it today. Like this part's a little wonky, but it's totally okay. I just like that there's even a little bit of shape in here still. Yeah, I'm just gonna put a little texture spray in it and call it a day. Since we're on day 3, I'm not going to be restyling. Instead, I'm going to wash my hair and start off with a new foundation, but this was a fun experiment and I know what I can get out of this after a couple days. Fun. Overall, there's a lot of easy ways to kind of make your hair look amazing without having to try super hard. I always love making things easier, and I think that's the best thing you can do with hair extensions. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that that tutorial was helpful. I can't wait to see you again. Thanks again for watching, and let me know if you have any questions down below. Bye.